Welcome to Closer to Venus. I'm Johnny Burke, and today's guest is Katharine Giovanni. She is a medium, intuitive advisor, past life specialist, and author of The Ultimate Path of Forgiveness. Her unique set of intuitive skills includes clairaudience, clairvoyance, and claircognizance. And in this episode, we'll discuss how she helps people unlock their intuitive skills as well as the transformative power of forgiveness. Katharine, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Johnny. I appreciate it.
Your intuitive abilities, otherwise known as the clairs, plays a pretty significant role in your work. How did you discover these gifts in the first place?
When I was a little girl, I used to talk to myself in my head, and I used to answer myself in my head. And as the years went on, when I was like in grammar school and moving into high school, it occurred to me that not everybody heard voices in their head and answered themselves. But I didn't tell anybody about it because in those years, if you showed even a little intuition, you were labeled as crazy. So I kept it to myself because I was being bullied in school at the time and I didn't want to be stuffed in a locker. So I just quietly went on my merry way. And as the years went on, I learned more and more and figured out exactly what was going on.
Okay, so speaking of what was going on, did you also have imaginary friends? Like, did you have visuals of anything, or was it more of like a claircognizance?
Clear knowing. Everybody's got a gift, an intuitive gift, and they've all got their strongest gift. Mine is clairaudient, which means I'm clear listening, which means I actually hear words in my head. I didn't really have any imaginary friends. I just kept hearing words, and God would talk to me, or the angels, or the spirit guides, or insert whatever word you're comfortable with. But I was given advice, and every time I followed the advice, everything would work out. When I didn't follow the advice, things got a little wonky. I wrote a book called The Little Bird in Your Shoulder, and that's exactly what it is. It's a little bird who can really see where you're going. My second gift is clear knowing, which is clairsentience, and I'm also clairvoyant, which it's not a Stephen King, I'm going to see a ghost walk in. It's really more like you see images in your head. That's all it is.
Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that you see something in front of you, although that can happen with clairvoyance. Though.
I have.
Right, you have.
Yeah,
okay.
I saw an angel once, and she was right there, and then she wasn't. And I thought I was crazy for a while, because in those days I didn't really understand what was going on. I heard things, but I never saw anything before. But after a while, I realized what it was.
So the angel that you saw, what did she or he look like?
She looked like a Renaissance figure. She had a beautiful smile, like a Mona Lisa kind of smile. And she had this beautiful dress with ribbons running down the bodice. And she appeared, she smiled at me, and then she left. I kept that to myself for like 2 weeks. And I thought, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I need medication. Maybe I need to go see a shrink. I always talked to myself, but I really hadn't connected the dots until I saw that angel. And then I went to the bookstore, because in those days we really didn't have any computers. And I thought, well, I'm a college-educated girl. There's somebody's written about this, but I don't think I'm crazy. I was walking up and down the aisles, and a book fell off the shelf right at my feet. And I walked around to the other side to see who was there. There was nobody there. The book literally levitated right in front of me. And not surprisingly, it was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And in that minute, I realized what was going on. I realized that I'd actually been doing it all my life. Everything just kind of meshed.
You mentioned angels and spirit guides earlier. You basically hear them. How do you tell the difference?
When the angels and God talk to me, it's the highest. It's usually the small, quiet voice that I hear. It's always the most loving guidance. I'm also an empath, so the energy has a different feel to it when I get it. It feels different. So I know when it comes through. Like when I got the message, you need to start jogging. I was in 2011. And I thought, I've been allergic to exercise my entire life. Hello. But I couldn't get it out of my head, and the angels kept bugging me, so I did start to jog. And a year later, I went from a size 14 down to an 8, and I found a lump, and that was stage 3 breast cancer. And if I hadn't listened to that voice, I'd be dead. I wouldn't even be sitting here. So when you hear these voices, so many people will hear that voice in a moment of horrible. Like a friend of mine heard it. She was falling asleep at the wheel. She heard wake up, and she woke up and she moved to the wheel, and she just narrowly missed the median. So many people hear it just once in their life and they don't think they can do it again, but they can do it again. My job is to normalize this stuff and to let people understand everybody can do this, not just me.
It's interesting you bring that up because just had a conversation like this an hour ago with empaths and intuitives and mediums. They always say the same thing. Everyone can do this. It could be a dormant skill, but some need to work on it more than others. Some have it closer to the surface than others. You're also a past life specialist. Mm-hmm. So how is that related to past life regression and otherwise? How did you discover that ability?
About 2 years ago, in the middle of the night, one of my sons called me up, and he was very upset, and he hadn't slept in weeks, and he had tried everything, and he just had this horrible insomnia. And he said, I'm not going to commit suicide, but I understand why somebody would. I will try anything you tell me to do. I will do it. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning, woke me up out of a dead sleep, so I sat up in bed, and I thought about it, and all of a sudden, this vision came to me, and I saw him as a sheriff lying in bed next to a woman, and he was the sheriff of a town, and I saw her smother him with a pillow, and he died. And she was having an affair, and she wanted to go with the guy, and she smothered with him a pillow. So not surprisingly, he had trouble sleeping, and he had trouble with relationships most of his life. So once I revealed this lifetime to me, because the angels will reveal the lifetime that's tripping you up the most in this lifetime, because emotions follow you. We all think that when you get angry, it just dissipates and goes into the air. It does not. It stays in your energy field. And not only does it stay in your energy field for this lifetime, but past lifetimes can trip you up. And once I revealed this to him, he started sleeping and he got into a relationship. That's when it all started. Now I get the information for everybody, whether I wanted to or not.
Okay, great.
It turned the volume up to 100.
So it's a little bit different than a past life regression. Is it more of a past life reading or not necessarily?
I don't like the word psychic. There's a couple of words that I will not use. I don't use the word psychic because I think it's got a bad reputation and some bad juju attached to it, so to speak. And if I tell you I'm a psychic, you think I'm a used car salesman. I'm about to take all your money with a crystal ball. So I hate that word. So I prefer intuitive. I don't like the word reading because I'm not reading a book. I don't usually say that. I'll say session. I really call it a past life reveal. Because if you're having trouble sleeping or you're scared of heights, there's a really good chance you were pushed off a cliff and that's how you died in one of your past lives. So then after I reveal it, I go through my forgiveness exercise with the person so they can forgive all the players in that lifetime. It releases all the bad stuff. And I'm not saying you're not going to be terrified of heights ever again, but you'll probably be less terrified. If you're an alcoholic, maybe it started in a past life. Okay, well, I can go through my process. Now, you're still going to be an alcoholic in this lifetime. You still have to go to rehab. You still have to do the work. But I can remove the root cause of how it all started.
Now, do you have any past life memories of your own that really stick out?
I have had a ton of past lives. I was a shaman. I've been intuitive. Not surprisingly, I was in Salem and was killed there. I was in Atlantis. I was in France as a guillotine master. Hello.
That's incredible.
Apparently, I died young because I didn't like that lifetime, you think? The reason for all of these lifetimes is we've all been male, we've been female, we've been good, we've been bad. If you come into this lifetime and you're one of the bad guys, so to speak, your next lifetime, you're probably the victim. We're here to learn. The earth is really a school, and that's why we're here.
Very good explanation. I'm intrigued. You mentioned Atlantis. Is there anything that you can remember? I'm always curious when I hear people talk about these memories. What did the architecture look like? What did people wear? Did they have certain weapons? Apparently, back in those days or that age, the psychic powers, like telepathy, for instance, I'm told was normal. You didn't need your cell phone. There's no point in like texting if you were in Atlantis, right?
No, it was normal, and everybody did it, and nobody would label it as hoodoo voodoo and slapping the crazy sticker on your forehead. It was normal.
Do you ever get the inclination that eventually our collective consciousness is going to return to that, or is that neither here nor there?
I think we're moving in that direction. Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm not the only one that's trying to normalize this. There's billions of people like me out there. They're working in 9-to-5 jobs. They're in Fortune 500 companies. They're just keeping what they can do to themselves. I did it for years and years and years. Nobody knew. I'm one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry, but nobody in that industry knew what I could do because I kept it a secret. And I gave people readings and I would help people with their stuff. They just didn't know what I was doing. And when it's seemingly, they'd look at me and they said, how could you possibly know that? And I'd just look at them and say, oh, years of experience, or just a hunch. It wasn't a hunch. I just heard it or I saw it.
You can't really say that because it's not safe
No.
enough because people would think you're a nutcase.
It would have tanked my entire career if I had admitted what I did. And I'm not the only one out there. Now that I'm older and I'm semi-retired from the industry, now I'm trying to normalize it and say, hey, there's a bunch of us out there and it's okay. Imagine if you could tap into those people in your company. Imagine the ideas that would come up. Just imagine what would happen.
I really like that idea. When you talk about normalization, as if an audio engineer is normalizing audio,
Right.
so it's appropriate and listenable for everyone. It reminds me of all the people that are now coming forth, even people that are reaching out to us here on Closer to Venus about being a light worker, being someone who supports light workers, someone who wants to
Yep.
encourage people to come out of the intuitive closet. So eventually it's normal like it was. That's why I asked about Atlantis, because anyone who has memories that go that far back will pretty much all say the same thing. We had that type of consciousness where things like telepathy and being psychic were completely normal. It wasn't a big deal.
Oh, it wasn't. It was like reading and writing. Everybody did it. It was
Everybody
normal.
did it. Okay. Anything else from that period that is relevant to what we're talking about now, like returning to that consciousness, trying to raise the vibration, the collective vibration?
That's really what it is. Everything vibrates. Everything on the planet vibrates. Here's an interesting story. People don't understand that when you meet somebody, how many times, Johnny, have you met somebody, you've shaken their hand, and then you've taken a giant step back, or they took a giant step back?
You immediately did not like them, or the opposite.
Yeah, because you're vibrating at different rates. So years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, a group of intuitive friends and I went out to lunch. And this waitress came over, the server, and she took everybody's order politely, and then she got to me. And she moved to the other side of the table. And I kind of looked at her. And she took my order, but she looked like she'd seen the devil when she took one look at me. And I smiled, and she went back to the kitchen. Okay, she ran back to the kitchen. When our food came, she politely put everybody's plate in front of them until she came to me. She tossed my plate across the table like a frisbee. She didn't even want to come near me. And then she fled back to the kitchen. I thought she was going to come back and sprinkle me with holy water or something. So I could have played with her. I knew what was going on. And my concierge training kicked in virtually immediately. So when she came back, I just smiled at her and was just polite. And there was just no color in the woman's face. So that just tells me that I was vibrating so differently that she just couldn't stand it. So one of the reasons why bullies will bully kids, because the kid is vibrating so differently, they don't understand it, and it's making them feel bad, so they'll bully you. Adults do this as well. So if you meet somebody, don't take offense if a stranger just doesn't like you. Now, conversely, I can be in the grocery store and the aisle will be empty when I get there and full by the time I get to the bottom. Some people don't want to be near me because of the light I put off and the vibrations I put off. Some people do, like a moth to a flame, and they will immediately come towards me. So you can pay attention in your life when you go out. It's amazing what you can feel when it comes to energy.
That's a good point. I was thinking about that server a moment ago when she came back from the kitchen. Would have been perfect if she gave you a necklace of garlic or something like that.
I was tempted to just look at her and go, boo. But I did not. But she was scared of my energy. That's what she was scared of.
Very interesting.
It was very entertaining, actually.
Going back to the clairs, this question does come up a lot. How can one tell the difference between the clair abilities and your own thoughts?
Everybody on the planet sees, hears, feels, knows something. That's how the gifts come in, through one of your senses. Some people smell it. I talk about the 4 or 5 main ways, but there's actually 12, 15 ways. I actually hear things. So the words I hear are normally not something I would normally say. And I often don't remember. If I'm in a session with somebody and giving them, quote, a reading, I often don't remember what I say. And it's not because I'm in my 60s now and I'm losing my mind. It's because I legitimately don't remember whoever came through has said. It's almost like my brain kind of goes to the side and whoever's coming through just comes through.
Isn't that channeling, or is it?
It is a little bit of channeling. I do a little bit of that. I have probably channeled almost all the books that I've written, that just kind of get into a zone when it happens. The way you should start if you think you're hearing things is through guided writing. Sit down with a pen and paper, turn your technology off, or just leave it in another room. Your kids, dogs, significant others, just go somewhere quiet and sit down and just write down a question. Are you there? Something like that. And the first words that form in your mind after you ask the question, write them down. Don't feel, don't think, don't do anything. Just write them down. And if a vision comes into your head, write down what you think you saw in your mind. Now, you know you're clairvoyant. Can you personally see your childhood bedroom? And if you had more than one, just pick one. Can you see it in your mind?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. If you can see your childhood bedroom, if you can see the color of the walls, you can see the bed, you're not seeing it in front of you. You're kind of seeing it like a movie playing out in your mind. That's clairvoyance.
I thought anybody could do that.
Not everybody can do that. I have asked that question to many people, and they look at me like I'm a crazy person. They said, no, I've never been able to do that. So people can't.
I can see the basketball court outside. I can see what our big backyard looked like next to the garage, and what the sky looks like and the trees and stuff like that. I didn't know that.
The hardest people to convince they're intuitive is the clear knowing, the claircognizant, because one minute they don't know it and the next minute they think it's just, I have a friend who does that, and it's taken me years to convince her that she's really, because she's got a PhD and she just they thought it, they read it in a book, it comes from their brain. Well, it is from their brain, but a lot of the time it is not. It's coming from the other side of the veil.
The other side of the veil. Very cool. So what you just described is interesting. Ask a question and just write what comes out. A woman I interviewed a while back called Gates McKibben, she did the same thing, and she called herself a scribe for spirit. It's automatic writing, is it not?
It is automatic writing. I have often called myself a secretary. I agree with her. I'm kind of like a scribe. And part of my brain almost doesn't want to take credit for it, because in my head, I know I didn't write that. But I did write it because it came out of me.
That reminds me of what Keith Richards, guitarist from the Rolling Stones, obviously, would say about music. He would say, I didn't write it. It was just there. He didn't really want to take credit for it.
Like him, he knew he didn't write it, but at the end of the day, it came through Keith Richards and it came through me, so we get the credit for it. But in your head, it's like, I'm not that good a writer. I would have never thought of that.
I interviewed a woman recently who talked about having a conversation with Kurt Cobain, which we all know is no longer with us. But also she went on to describe how he was helping artists with their work. John Lennon apparently helped Kurt with his music. And I've actually heard that more than once, not just from her, but from other people who had communication with spirits across the veil. And apparently these artists on both sides of the veil are actually working together, as outlandish as that sounds. I really like the idea of that. They're still trying to contribute to our world, to our culture.
Sure. So your parents and your family and your grandparents, and believe it or not, the parents and the spouses from past lives, you have an incredible team of people on the other side who are rooting you on and legitimately want to help you.
Have you had any kind of communication yourself with your team that have actually lived before?
Many times.
Can you give us an example?
When my father was alive, he was not a very nice person, with all due respect. He was an alcoholic. Let's just say he was not a nice person. But when he died and he finally came to me, I was seeing this light-filled human, this light-filled being, and I thought, that's not my father, because my father was just horrible. He was dark. I had a very dysfunctional childhood, but here this being was, and very light-filled. There's a book called The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh, and it's supposed to be a child's book, but it's not. Every adult should read it. And sometimes souls come down to help. If you want to come down and experience love, they will come down and be the opposite so you can experience the love. And I think that's what my father did. He came down to be one thing which would force me to go in a different direction. And
interesting.
That was a big revelation to me. That's one of my favorite Neil Donald Walsh books is The Little Soul in the Sun, and it's beautifully written.
It's also very encouraging to hear from intuitives, people that have that ability to have that kind of communication across the veil. They all are very, very steadfast in saying they are here to root you on. They are with you right now, even though you can't see them. That is really pretty incredible if you think about it.
It's not like a stupid human trick and they're over here and we're just here for their comic relief saying, oh, look what the humans are doing now. They're not like that. They actually want us to succeed. They actually want to see us move forward. Everybody is being given help, whether you believe it in or not. We're being given like a breadcrumb trail. And it's just a matter of listening and following those breadcrumbs. They want you to succeed.
And spirit guides as well, which may or may not be some of your past relatives and friends and things like that. And I've heard some funny stories about how spirit guides can actually be humorous and sometimes even a little rough on you. Have you had any experiences like that?
I wrote a book about 20 years ago called God Is That You? And I'm actually putting out a second edition. I am very spiritual. I am not religious. But every once in a while, you have to go to a family function in a church. And I dislike going to these things. And it's not because I dislike my family or anything. It's because God, the last time I did it, God was cracking jokes in my head. And I'm thinking, I'm supposed to be here worshiping you, and you're cracking jokes in my head. And it was terribly inappropriate. But yeah, what you have to understand is he's not here to help you part the waters. He's not going to talk to you in parables unless you're really into that kind of thing. He's not going to use these, thous, and those. Neither are the angels. They're going to talk to you in the regular King's English, and they're very funny. Because why not? Joy and laughter is part of life. Now, if you want them to be serious, I would imagine they'll be serious. But mine certainly aren't, because I've been joking for years. My 2 guardian angels are going to take 2 Tylenol and go on vacation when I finally leave the planet.
I like that. And I've heard that many times, that they can be even a little bit sarcastic and a little snarky.
They can be very snarky.
That's what I would want, because when I move on, I'm going to be a spirit guide, hopefully, if I get elected to be one. And I'm going to be very snarky, but in a nice way. You mentioned God was cracking jokes in your head. I have to ask, for those of us that are skeptical, how did you know it was God? How did you know it was him or it or source or whatever?
I just knew. It was the voice I'd been hearing since I was a child. I call God a he just because that's what I'm used to. You can call God a she hit. You can call him Tom, Dick, Harry, or George. I don't care what you call it. You can call it your higher self if you want. You can call it angels, spirit guides. You can call it the voice, as many people do. It was a voice I was used to, and I'd been hearing it since I was a child and having conversations with it since I was a child. So I was very used to talking to it. And when I got to an adult, I finally realized it wasn't me talking to me like I thought for years. It was actually, I was having a conversation. That's kind of how I knew who I was talking to, because I don't remember what the jokes were. It was 20 years ago, but it's not something I would come up with.
So it could have been like a snarky spirit guide or something like that, who just sensed that you needed to laugh. But either way, it's a good thing. Let's talk about the book, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. Great title. How did you come to write that, and what was the inspiration?
Well, when I was a little girl in the 8th grade in 1974, my parents got a divorce. I tried to commit suicide because I was getting bullied in the divorce. It was just a horrible year. So I spent the next 15, 20 years as that kid, the draped in black. I was living in New York at the time, so draped in black. And I had one friend, and I was negative. My world was very small because I was so angry. And my story became a badge of honor. Look what I survived. I survived this horrible childhood type of thing. And eventually my mother died, and I decided that it was time to change. So I read an article, and I talked to a few people, and they said, you know, you're angry. You might want to start forgiving. Okay. Everybody says you should forgive. Nobody teaches you how. And they didn't back then. They just said you need to forgive. So it was just paying lip service to it. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And I was just randomly doing that. But as I did it, my life opened up. I got married, and things started to get better. And then I started workshops in the concierge industry in the early 1990s. you didn't bring a soft topic to any of your business workshops. So I was teaching these 2-3-day workshops, and I can't teach you good customer service and how to be a 5-star concierge if you're angry inside. I can't teach you to be warm, friendly, and approachable. I can show you all the beautiful words to you and the way you should talk and speak. But if you're angry, your anger is going to bleed through your body language whether you want it to or not. So I had to figure out a way I could relieve their anger permanently, and often they had to do it from their desk. And that's when I came up with forgiveness. And a few years later, I came up with the step-by-step program that I'm using today.
A good point. Everyone tells you to forgive, but no one teaches you how.
Nobody teaches you how.
And it's worth mentioning that the things that I hear the most, the 3 things are love, compassion, and forgiveness. Forgiveness is a big one.
It is a big one.
It's not for the other person or the other thing or whatever it is. It's for you to move on, because I've been told many times that the key to raising your vibe, the more you forgive, the higher up that you go.
Spot on.
As painful as that is.
You want them out of your head. You want to stop thinking about these people because they're living rent-free in your head. You want them out. And so you forgive them, and then you go on Facebook or you see them in a family function and they're back in your head again. So they have a nasty way of not staying forgiven. So here's the method in 30 seconds or less. I want you to sit down and I want you to write the people, places, and things. I said places and things. Then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10. 10 is a dumpster fire. 10 is unforgivable. 10 is probably who everybody is thinking about right now. You don't have to forgive you're the unforgivable. I'm the only one that's going to say that to you. There's a lot of other things you can forgive before you get to the dumpster fire. You can forgive that kid in first grade who's cheated off your paper. You can forgive the person who cut you off in the grocery store yesterday on aisle 5. You can forgive those people. Start with them. And then once you say, I forgive, and you really think about it, here's the secret sauce to the whole thing. You didn't forgive the energy. That's why it's still staying in your field. So you forgive the person and you forgive the energy around the person. And you start with the number 1s and you go all the way to the 10s and the dumpster fire. If you can't forgive the person, well, then pick things out of the dumpster. There's other things you can forgive. Let's use a really horrible example. Let's say you were raped. You're not going to forgive the rapist, but you can forgive the park. You can forgive the streetlights. You can forgive the ground. You can forgive your childhood home and the desk you used to sit at. You can forgive the bed, the dresser, your childhood school, and the energy around your school. I forgave 1974, the whole year.
The whole year?
And the energy around the whole year, because it was a horrible year.
Maybe that is a good method in itself, a shortcut. Let's say I've had a really bad week at work. I could say, I forgive the whole week, and I forgive the energy around it.
Exactly.
And that's probably a good shortcut to get through it. What do you think?
I think it's perfect. And don't forget to forgive yourself. Quite often, we are the dumpster fire. We are the number 10s. And there's a step-by-step process in the book. And if you think you're the number 10, then I want you to go through the same process. You can't forgive yourself. Well, you can forgive pieces of it. You can forgive pieces of the memory that you're really upset about. Little things, the people that were around you at the time, or the building. There's other things you can forgive that will chip away. Forgiveness is like an onion, and you have to peel off the layers. And eventually, when you peel off the layers, you're going to get to the center of that onion. Are you ever done with forgiveness?
Probably not.
No. We're humans. Humans irritate other humans, and another onion will appear. It's very irritating.
It hurts the eyes to smell and everything.
It does.
But I like onions. I like onion bagels for what it's worth. So maybe it's not all so terrible.
Start with the easy ones. As you forgive, you're going to start to feel better. And the fog is going to start to lift. And you're going to start to see opportunities. What does that mean? It means you might see opportunities. You might see the opportunity for a new job. You might see the opportunity for a significant other. You might lose some weight. There's a reason to buy the book. Why? Because you're paying attention and you're not focused on the anger.
So other than writing the book, which obviously was a milestone for you, in your collective experience, what are the really important things that you've learned along the way?
I think one of the most important things I've personally learned, and I've been through all sorts of things, including cancer, you have to have faith in things you can't see. Sometimes you just have to have blind faith, especially if you're going through something like cancer. I always knew I was going to come out on the other side, but when you're in the middle of chemotherapy and you're bald like Schmeagol from Lord of the Rings, it's often a minute-by-minute process. Being positive, it's not something that it comes easy to you when you're in pain. You have to do it second by second. But the biggest thing that I learned is I can't control what life throws at me, but I can control how I got through it. And I try and leave people better than I find them wherever I go. And that's the mantra that I've been using for years and years and years now.
All right, excellent. Katharine, thanks for joining us today. Great information, including your book as well. How can our listeners find you online?
Just go to my website, and it's KatharineGiovanni.com, and Katharine is spelled a little bit odd. Thanks, Mom. Katharine Giovanni.com.
Excellent. I will put that in the show notes and the transcript as well. You've been listening to Closer to Venus and Johnny Burke. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing. You can find more info on closertovenus.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.